Welcome back. It's a big day in the royal household. Prince George is celebrating his 13th birthday. Just clocked over about, 53 minutes ago?
That's breaking news for the morning show only. On Sunrise, he was about to turn. Now he is turning with a recent announcement from the palace that he'll be taking a place at Eton College this September. It really is a milestone year for the future king. Lots of changes ahead, and royal commentator Angela Mollard is right across it, of course. Morning to you, Ange.
Morning.
It's becoming this beautiful tradition to release a photo of the young royals. It's literally, as you say, only clocked over midnight in the UK. When can we expect to see a photo just like this?
Look, I think we'll have one within hours. Catherine and William have been amazing at sharing pictures right through the ages. Since, hours after his birth, Kate was standing there, outside the Lindo wing because this was the heir to the throne. Everyone wanted to see him. And ever since, there's been pictures every year for his birthday. And, of course, in May, when Charlotte had her birthday, we not only had a beautiful picture, but there was video. So now they've set the expectation for that. I'm hoping for a little bit more of that. But he's a pretty shy kid, so who knows?
You know when the kids are younger and then you go off to a friend's house for a birthday party and it's a really nice house and you go, oh, what am I going to buy this kid? What are you going to buy this kid?
Yeah.
Where do you start with birthday presents for this kid?
Luckily, he has a ton of interests. I mean, he plays loads of sport. He plays football, he plays hockey like his mum, he loves swimming. He was recently, obviously, at Wimbledon, where he's actually quite a good tennis player, apparently. He said he is kind of all right, but the British player Arthur Ferry said, do you want me to come and hit some balls with you? So that's probably happening behind the scenes. But the other thing he's really talented at, he's a great artist. He's actually, which I think's lovely because it's that's a picture there that he did of his mother, Catherine, and he previously did a beautiful Christmas card of a reindeer. So this is something, obviously, that connects him with King Charles because he's very good at art as well and loves watercolours and sketching. Lovely connection between grandson and grandfather.
When he went to Wimbledon with Charlotte just a few weeks ago, it was their second official engagement for the year. We don't actually see that much of them, aside from the photos that are released. Now he moves to Eton, to boarding school, and you kind of lose a little bit of that control in terms of who he's hanging out with and what he's doing. What is going to happen? That's a seismic shift.
It is a seismic shift, but he's still very, very protected in that environment. He's protected in so much as the school have had, obviously, members of the royal family through before William and Harry there. Look, I think what will happen is that he will be boarding, and he has been doing some boarding at his previous school, Lamrock, but they've done everything really gradually. And this is, of course, why Kate and William moved to Windsor, so that he could just come home at any point that he wants. Family's really close. The challenge, though, Eddie, of course, is that when Harry and William were there, not everybody had a phone. You could walk around Windsor and you could do what you wanted and you could muck up, but the phone is there.
So let's hit that.
Yeah.
What would they have in place? Because that is a monumental problem for every parent everywhere.
Absolutely.
But how do they deal with that?
Well, William has already said that George has asked for a phone. Now, Eton has a policy that you're allowed a brick phone in your first year, so he'll probably have one. Doesn't have smart access, that sort of thing. But and of course, the UK is following our policy and moving towards an under-16 social media ban, which, of course, the palace will be, and Catherine and William will be massively in favour of. That doesn't stop, though, your mate having a phone or being on TikTok or, as we saw with Prince Harry all those years ago, playing nude billiards. I'm not suggesting George is going to do that, but we saw, of course, that was taken on a
But the
smartphone.
staff, all the adults walking around with the opportunity to get a picture of the royal there, it's difficult.
I think the members of, the people at Eton would not be doing that. It'll be walking through Windsor.
You'd like to think so.
You'd hope so, but it'll be walking through Windsor, or it'll be kids being teenagers and being silly, and a member of the public standing outside Marks and Spencer just snapping a shot, and that'll go viral.
What about the press too? Because very different rules now for the UK press versus what Harry and William would have had when they were at school, when Princess Diana was still alive?
Well, when Diana was alive and after her death, the Press Council came down hard and fast on media, and the whole landscape. This is why it was quite unusual that Meghan was so concerned about the privacy of her children. Basically, we haven't seen pictures of, if you think about it, can you think of a single paparazzi picture of George and Charlotte? There was one early on with Carol Middleton with George when he was little, and it was published in Europe and Australia, but it wasn't published anywhere else. And the palace came down firmly. So he has been protected from the British papers for many, many years. And that's why we have this quid pro quo where the palace actually released these pictures, because they know people are interested, but having control over it. The other question I think is interesting is that Kate and William have been incredibly forthcoming with content. We don't necessarily know that George, Charlotte and Louis will want to follow in that way, but that precedent's been set. I think that's also quite a tricky one.
Yeah, we've spoken about the concept of the firm a lot, right? So this isn't normal mum and dad sending the normal kid off to school. What's happening in those corridors around the protocol, the pages of protocol for this next chapter?
Look, there's a lot of protection at Eton, but what's really interesting, I think, is that you've got George going into this protocol is that he's going to have, doing more events, but slowly and very gently. If you think about it, we've barely heard his voice. We heard him speaking to a D-Day veteran once, and there was some lovely questions between him, so we'll probably start to hear him speaking a bit more. But if you think about it, he's going into his schooling in a far better state of mind than William was. William went in with, of course, his parents had separated. They divorced the year after he started. Then Diana died. And William's housemaster, Andrew Gainey, really took him under his wing. Kate and William, they're there for them. They've formulated friendships. They're actually on the school WhatsApp group, would you believe? That's a massive trust issue, don't you think? That you put your number, and I'm sure it's not their key number, it'll be a side number. They're on the WhatsApp group, so they have had to trust other parents so that their kids can have sleepovers. Imagine going for a sleepover with William and Kate, or imagine George going for a sleepover at someone else's house and having to have royal protection. It's a whole new ball game.
It just takes a good skips all the tree planting and the ribbon cuttings and just takes like the football finals, the Wimbledon finals, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
I think he'd be pretty popular at school.
I think the Middletons are also hugely influential here, because you've got the palace, you've got Charles and Camilla, but you've also got Carol and Michael and the normal way they've grown up, and you've got Pippa Middleton and her 3 children, and those kids must play together all the time, but we never see any pictures of that.
They've really gone out of their way to make it as normal as possible in extraordinary circumstances, haven't they? Thank you, Anne.